Hello, welcome to Bible Study with Alice. Today we're on day 3, Esther 3 of our daily Esther reading. We're reading from the ESV translation, but you're more than welcome to join us from a different translation. As you can see, we are on Esther 3. These videos are filmed in real time. Today's date is the 8th of May 25 and it's a Thursday. You can find the previous 2 chapters in the playlist below. There's a couple of disclaimers as usual. The first is these videos are unedited. Also, I stumble my wording, which always seems to happen. And also, a new disclaimer that I'm bringing in is I'm going to probably mispronounce a lot of the names in this book of Esther. I have already done that yesterday, which was very interesting. But anyway, let's get started. Haman plot against the Jews. After these things, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman the Agagite, the son of Hammedatha, and advanced him and set his throne above all the officials who were with him, and all the king's servants who were at the king's gate bowed down and paid homage to Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai did not bow down or pay homage. Then the king's servants who were at the king's gate said to Mordecai, "Why do you transgress the king's command?" And when they spoke to him day after day, and he would not listen to them, they told Haman in order to see whether Mordecai's word would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. And when Haman saw that, go lift my tripod up a little bit. Mordecai did not bow down or pay homage to him. Haman was filled with fury, but he disdained to lay hands on Mordecai alone. So, as they had made known to him the people of Mordecai, Haman sought to destroy all the Jews, the people of Mordecai throughout the kingdom of Ahasuerus. In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, or Nisan even, not Nisan. Nisan is a car make, Nisan even. I do apologise. In the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast lots before Haman day after day, and they cast it month after month till the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. Then Haman said to the king Ahasuerus, "There are certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among people in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those of every other people, and they do not keep the king's law, so that it is not to the king's profit to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let it decree that they destroy, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver in the hands of those who have charge of the king's business, that they may put it into the king's treasure." So the king took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman the Agagite, the son of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews. And the king said to Haman, "The money is given to you, the people also do with them as it seems good to you." Then the king's scribe was summoned on the 13th day of the first month, and an edict, according to all that Haman commanded, was written to the king's staffers and to governors of all the provinces, and to the officials of all the people, to every province in its own script, and every people in its own language. It was written in the name of King Ahasuerus, and sealed with the king's signet ring. Letters were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces with instructions to destroy, to kill, and to annihilate all Jews, young and old, women and children, in one day, the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. A copy of the document was to be issued as a decree in every province by proclamation to all the people to be ready for that day. The couriers were set. Start again. 15. The couriers went out hurriedly by order of the king, and the decree was issued in Susa the great town. And the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susa was thrown into confusion. So that is 3 complete, and tomorrow we'll be doing chapter 4. There's a couple of things I want to talk about, or there's a couple of things. So yesterday we were on 2, and I mentioned in my Bible dictionary about concubines. And then I was trying to then show you where it was in the Bible, because obviously I wouldn't have just come out with a word without actually having it, seen it. And now I can't even find concubine in the dictionary. Oh gosh, this is not going down very well. There it is. So that's the concubine meaning in the Bible. And for those who are new to the channel, I will look through the Bible dictionary of words that are words that we could, do with understanding what it might mean. Or we might know what concubine means. I mean, I'm not saying you don't, but if you didn't know what it meant in biblical terms, this is where this comes into. The one I use, I'll just go out slightly, is G. Douglas Young, PhD, Young's Bible Dictionary. This is the one I use. I have done a Bible dictionary review of it, and it is an updated and expanded edition of it. So, concubine in the dictionary says, a secondary wife, usually taken from servants, slaves, or as a booty in war, often because the principal wife was barren, as in the case of Abraham with Sarah and Hagar. This practice was regulated by law in the world of the time outside of the Bible area. And yeah, so that's what it means. And obviously I had mentioned it yesterday and then couldn't find it, but I found it afterwards, as usual. So it's one of those weird ones where they split the word in half, and then you can't see it then when it's split in half. So I couldn't find it. That was one of the reasons why. But that's what concubine mean, and that's where it was in chapter 2. So with chapter 3, so what I like about the Bible in general terms is how they have like the bits here. So it kind of then explains how the story is going to be. So if we look at here, so in chapter 1 it talks about the king's banquet, then Queen Vashti's refusal, Esther's chosen queen, and then just check it, and then Haman, oh no, hold on, I knew there was another one. Mordecai discovers a plot, and then Haman's plot against the Jews. And yeah, so it's just, I like it because it explains what the next bit's going to be about, and it helps us to then understand what's going to come up. And obviously Esther has not been mentioned throughout chapter 3, but her guardian, her cousin Mordecai, was mentioned. And for context purposes, so I'm going to read. So I'm going to show you the box first, because it doesn't actually show you on the actual Bible. So I'm going to be reading from this Student Study Bible. It's an ESV, so it is fine. This is what it looks like. I have to go back out. This is what it looks like. I'm going to read from it, and it's a profile. On the next page. Yeah. So it's Esther's profile. I'm going to redo that. So this is an ESV student study Bible. I got this from Amazon, and I'm not going into the whole thing of Amazon and stuff, but I do get a lot of my stuff from there, but that's neither here or there. But I'm pretty sure you can get this from anywhere, and I will, because I am actually due to do a review on a Bible, and I'm going to be doing this one. This is actually quite helpful. So I'm going to read to you the profile of Esther. So it says, Esther was a Jew living among the exiles in Persia. During the reign of King Ahasuerus, following the death of her parents, Esther was raised by her cousin Mordecai. Esther was a beautiful woman, and she won favour in the eyes of all who saw her. When the reigning queen was removed from power, a beauty contest was held to choose her replacement, and Esther was chosen. A queen of Persia, Esther risked her life to save Jewish people from an annihilation. She and Mordecai instituted Feast of the Purim to commemorate their deliverance. So you find, actually, there's lots of profiles. There's even a profile on, did you know? I like these things, did you know? So who is King Ahasuerus? So he's a Persian king. Ahasuerus is known as Xerxes. I can't pronounce that word. It's Xerxes the first. It was his army that fought against the Greek Spartans in 480 BC at the Battle of Thermopylae. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not going to lie, that was a mouthful. I will let my camera go back into focus, because it does that a lot. So yeah, so this study Bible is really, really helpful, and as I said, I will do a review on it. So, because as I said, having a Bible dictionary and having a study Bible is really helpful, and it's also helpful to have it in the translation that you're reading from. Trust me when I say it's actually helpful, because it is actually helpful. So now, let me just go in. So Haman, so he's obviously not very happy at all. He's not a very happy man. He really is not a happy man, because obviously he don't like Jewish people, and obviously he just couldn't understand why, when everybody was bowing down and paying homage to the king, because obviously, you know, you do like the curtsying bows and stuff like that when you are in the presence of a king or a queen. But Mordecai didn't do any of that. And then obviously all the king's servants had done it, everybody had done it. But Haman had actually wanted to know why he hadn't done it. When he says, why do you transgress the king's command? And he just didn't listen. He just didn't want to know. And obviously he would not listen to them. They then told Haman in order to see whether Mordecai would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. So obviously he felt like he should have to bow or pay homage because of being a Jewish person. He just felt like he shouldn't have to. And obviously, you don't have to if you don't want to. But obviously at the time, they felt that he had to. Because obviously at the top, it goes, Mordecai did not bow down or pay homage to him. Haman was filled with fury. But he disclaimed to lay hands on Mordecai alone. So obviously he was really, really cross at this point. He was like, why aren't you, doing anything? Like, because what, you're Jewish. You shouldn't have to. You should pay respect to your king. So obviously he then wanted to sort out to destroy all Jewish people because of Mordecai. Because obviously, why not? So then, in 7, it's obviously then going on about how, he's he's obviously going on about how the king wants him to kind of, basically the king's, from Haman's perspective, he's furious. He's like furious because you're disrespecting the king. But the thing is, though, as we know, Mordecai, yes, is Jewish. So is Esther. Esther is a Jewish woman. And she went by the name of Hadassah. There we go, Hadassah, meaning myrtle tree in Hebrew, and is one of the Hebrew names. So obviously at this point, the king and all the people around the king don't know that Queen Esther is actually a Jewish woman, and that even though she was a Jewish woman, her parents obviously died and she needed somebody to take care of her, and that's what Mordecai was doing. He was just doing that, was taking care of her, because at the end of the day, she's somebody that needs to be taken care of, because obviously she's still a young person, and obviously he's going to follow out his his duty as being her cousin and being her guardian of keeping her safe. So it then comes into the bit here that how obviously their laws here are different from those of every other people, and they do not keep the king's laws, so that it is not to the king's profit to tolerate them. So the kings obviously have these rules set out because at the end of the day, he had these rules as being king, and back in that time period, you went by the king's rulings. I mean, in the United Kingdom, we do have a king, King Charles III, but he's obviously a reigning monarch, but he doesn't set out the rules. I mean, he signs them to say, yes, I do think these rules should be in place, but there's a big process to do such a thing, because obviously in the United Kingdom, a rule is then, or a law is thought of, and gets debated in the House of Commons. Then it goes to the House of Lords, and then all the lords and ladies, but in the House of Lords, they then decide if that law should take place, and then they then decide, yeah, we do want to have this law to take place, and then they get the king to kind of finalise it, basically. But the House of Lords has already said yes, and as soon as they get said yes, it technically is law, but they got the king to say, yeah, I actually agree with it. So that's what I mean. There's a lengthy process in the United Kingdom, for example, to make a law. But back in biblical time, back when this was occurring, it was actually the king that had the rules. He set them out. It was his idea, and that was the end of it. So obviously he'd already set out what he wanted his rules to be. But obviously they're going to be different from other areas, obviously, in particular like the Jewish people. They're going to be different then. So then we come down a bit more. I'm trying to keep this simple for you all, so I'm trying not to go too deep with it. So then obviously the king has had his like letters basically written out, summoned to everybody within his kingdom, and they're all wrote in his own language, in your own language, for you to understand what it says. And I mean, it's really hard to explain it, but like, like how I'm gonna type into my iPad very quickly. I don't think of these things straight away, so I do apologise, but I will carry on. So, don't want everything open. Google. So basically, like, it's all about how it was, oh gosh. How it says about how the king has a signet ring. And basically, in no other way of describing it, so this is kind of, it's not the same obviously, but it's to kind of give you some kind of understanding of what a signet ring would have looked like. So that is how the signet ring would have appeared. So I'm not very good at technology, as in I would add it into like a picture into the like however YouTubers add things. But that's basically how it would have been. He would have had that on, and then he would have put it into some kind of wax type of thing, and then sealed the letters. So it would appear something like that. And he so when he was obviously saying about his signet ring, that is what that then means. It would have looked like something like that, and he would have obviously had that stamped on and then passed out the letters. It was basically a way to say that the king had wrote that letter. When you had a letter with a signet ring inscribement, basically it's just dipped into some kind of wax basically. That was basically meant that was the king's official document, and that it was important that letter was then important. And they were sent obviously from by the couriers of the king, and it obviously had instructions to destroy and kill and annihilate all Jewish people, young and old, women and children, in one day, the 13th day of the 12th month, which was, if we go by now, it would be the 13th of December, basically. That's basically how you would have described it if you go by today's calendar. And a copy of the document was issued as a decree in every province of the proclamation to all the people to be ready for that day. So it was just to make people aware that the king was really cross with all Jewish people because of Mordecai. Even though Mordecai just didn't feel like he should have to bow down to the king and pay homage to him, the king obviously was very, very cross. Now, obviously, Mordecai is very important, as we do discover in the next couple of chapters, especially in the next chapter. He is obviously an important character in the story of Esther. So, as we've discovered so far, that the king is obviously at a banquet, and he wanted his queen Vashti to obey him, to do what he wanted her to do. She outright refused to do so. Then it came to like a beauty contest type thing to find a new queen. He finds a new queen in Esther. Mordecai discovers a plot, and that plot obviously ended in with 2 people being killed. Haman is really cross with Mordecai, very cross with Jewish people, because he felt that Jewish people should obey what he wanted and to obey the king. But because Mordecai wouldn't do that, it then meant that there's this order now being put out to all Jewish people that they're going to be assassinated. All because Mordecai didn't want to bow down to the king. Just because of one person, all these people are now being having their life threatened. So that's basically the chapter 3 complete. I will now write in the day and the date. So I'll write it here. So it's day 3, and it's the 8th of the 5th to 5. So yeah, so that is chapter 3 complete. Tomorrow we're going to be doing chapter 4. Thank you for watching. Please like my content, please subscribe to my channel, and please turn on the notification bell so you get notified of content like this that gets uploaded to the channel. Thank you and goodbye.